Hello and welcome to Modernize to Public Cloud webinar on VMware Cloud on AWS. And today with Ralf Poggemann and Carsten Fratzak, they will present to you some use cases and go a little bit deeper into why VMware Cloud on AWS might be the perfect solution for you, provided by T-Systems. And my name is Philipp von Schmieding. I'm the moderator today. And we will have some questions for you during the webinar, and it would be nice if you would take part in the little polls we prepared. But the first question today is, why are we here in generally? The reason is we want to help you to make your business more competitive through an economical technology mix that makes your IT powerful, secure, and flexible. And that is in bigger lines what T-Systems is about. And we want to achieve this today by sharing information with you on how you could approach your way into the cloud in the most efficient way. So, and with this, I turn over to the first presenter from today, or to Ralf, who will present himself. Hello, Ralf.
Yeah, thank you very much, Philip, and welcome to our webinar today. So my name is Ralf Poggemann. I am responsible for the VMware Cloud portfolio at T-Systems, and together with my colleague, I want to provide an introduction and related overview today, how to leverage and how to realize a migration to VMware Cloud. Carsten, some words from your point of view?
Yeah, hi and welcome. My name is Carsten Fratzak. I'm working as a customer success manager for VMware Cloud on AWS at T-Systems to help our clients implementing VMC on AWS in a best suitable manner. And I also support our product management with client feedback so that they can create or rather adjust our product offering for the client's needs.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So the first point, the first topic of today would be to look at what is a typical starting point, or what is a typical use case. How are perhaps some of you also went into the cloud, gone into the cloud. So Ralf, could you present us a little bit overview on how that typically comes to pass?
Yes, and I would like to start with two customer stories just to make it a little bit more practical. The idea behind is that we have recognized that customers are leveraging public cloud, but they leverage public cloud in a completely different way, simply depending on their specific business needs. And the first customer situation you can see here is, for example, a public sector customer, and he's located in Germany. His cloud approach in general, summarized in a couple of sentences, is he is focusing on a data center extension and has, in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, a great need for additional infrastructure resources in a very short period of time. The second business need is the migration capability needs to be bidirectional. So the approach is not only to migrate workloads to the cloud, but especially consider to move them back after the cloud is not really needed anymore. So again, focusing on own data center capabilities. And the approach is to leverage the existing VMware know-how, including the existing VMware software-defined data center technology. So the summary would be, this customer has business needs which are mainly infrastructure driven, leverage public cloud as an extension of the own data center, of the own VMware environment. So I would summarize such kind of approach a piece of migration to public cloud. This customer, by the way, is really focusing on the VMware piece here and has short-term not planned to leverage AWS services, for example. Really an interesting customer. If you want us to provide some more information around that, we have created a white paper. If you reached out to us after the webinar today, we would certainly be able to provide some more details in a written format. If we go to the next slide, that is the second customer leveraging the same strategy, public cloud, including VMware. However, this customer is focusing on a cloud-first approach. It's a healthcare customer. He is acting worldwide, especially in Europe and in the United States. And his approach is migrate and modernize applications to public cloud as soon and as fast as possible. So first approach is modernize to AWS wherever possible. And the second is migrate, so relocate to AWS whenever needful. Yeah? That would be, for example, the specific piece of VMware Cloud on AWS here. This customer, his business needs are really mainly application-driven. Idea behind is replace the customer-owned data centers by public cloud capabilities as soon as possible. And I guess what we can see here is already we have two customers who are leveraging the same technology, but coming from completely different business needs. And that is something what we see in the market more or less from day to day. And we want to explain a little bit more in the next 30 to 40 minutes how this looks like and what T-Systems is realizing around VMware Cloud on AWS for these customer situations.
Okay, thank you. If I understood correctly, then the cases are pretty much not the same at all. You have different cloud scenarios per customer, so that aligns good with the headline of the next slide. The sentence "cloud is not a destination; it's a strategy." Could you elaborate that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. So what we have really recognized over time is that customers are facing several challenges around what have we done in the past, in the meaning of owned and operated own data center capabilities, now following public cloud strategies. And the idea behind is in general that public cloud or that cloud platforms is that the cloud strategy is much more than talking about platforms only. It's not only how to realize a cost-efficient platform, it's especially around making application landscape cloud ready, supporting the related organizations of the end customer to transform themselves coming from a traditional business and evolving itself to a cloud native, for example. And that is why we have decided to create a related package, which is not focusing alone on the platform, on the infrastructure, but what's complemented to some more services fulfilling the related requirements and drivers of our customers.
Thank you. From a business point of view, you just said drivers of the customers. What would you say are the most important drivers to consider when moving to the public cloud?
Yeah, I guess if we switch to the next slide, one of the most named drivers we are facing today is really the cost saving. In the traditional way of working, the infrastructure is more or less, let's name it, fixed. So even if we are talking about virtualized hardware and software above, customers tell us it's difficult, for example, that these infrastructure needs to support volatile business. A lot of customers have still seasonal peaks in their business over a year, but if you have a infrastructure which is more or less fixed, because you have it in your data center or you have it not in your data center, then you have simply some challenges around your TCO. And that is why the requirement and the expectation against public cloud is definitely reduce costs and translating or moving from the current CAPEX model to a OPEX-based model, just to ensure that the TCO become better in public cloud as it is of today.
Yeah. Interesting. The business agility next point, I think it's is important to mention too, because not everything is about cost savings. What's the point with business agility?
Yeah, so it's correct. It's definitely not cost alone, but as volatile as costs can be, the business agility is one important fact why customers want to leverage public cloud, because depending on the scalability of a public cloud infrastructure platform, you have the ability to faster roll out new business initiative, for example. Yeah, the famous wording around a faster response to market demand and scale appropriately, that is typically parts to support the business agility next to the costs, and both belong strong together, close together.
Yeah, thank you. Carsten, if you would have a look at the technical side of it, we heard a lot about business case and of the use for the business financially and agility. What's about innovation?
Yeah, so from an innovation perspective, I think the main aspect are the new values from technology to develop and release new products and services. Here we see mainly new applications or use cases like data analytics or IoT, or data-driven decisions, or real-time customer engagement and interactions.
Yeah, I don't know if you just lost your microphone or if that's the point, if there was a point at the end of the sentence. Carsten,
Yeah.
Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you, yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry. just so abrupt. But then, yeah, you're very efficient in the use of your words, so perhaps you could also spend some on the operational efficiency.
Yeah, on the operational efficiency, what we see here is in many local data centers, especially from our clients, are mostly outdated hard and software environments. And with VMC, we can help you to improve your products or service delivery with security, operations, and scalability. And yeah, this will achieve through regular release cycles and a high level of automation in the infrastructure environment. And yeah, maybe if you think about how long it takes to update your local VMware environment to a new version, you should keep in mind VMC will do it in 2 or 3 days, several times a year. And this is, yeah, a huge benefit, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. What we do not yet know is, since we are talking about the drivers in general, this is what you experience with your customers today. What we do not know yet is what are your drivers. So you who are listening now, and we have prepared a little poll, and it would be nice if you could share a little bit about your situation with us. Okay. I'm just having some technical difficulties to blend in the poll. I think we come back to that later. So please, if you would, we could have another look at how the different ways to migrate could look like.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So what we have prepared so far is just an understanding, and then from application perspective to explain, every migration always depends on workloads cloud readiness. So if you have a look at the mode 1 and mode 2 tier here on the screen, before moving applications to the cloud, you need to establish their status. Are they cloud ready? Are there dependencies to consider? What's their environment, and so on. And as there is no one-size-fits-all model for moving applications to the cloud, you might want to look deeper into the available options. And probably you remember having a look at these slide, the 6R migration strategy model. to make it a little bit easier for today, just compare and leverage the two general migration models based up on your specific needs. The first would be the lift and shift. Yeah? So moving workloads as they are, and lift and shift is a quick and non-resource intensive migration approach. In the majority of cases, organizations rehost their applications when the main advantage of the cloud is simply the cost and the new, more powerful architecture on the estimated target platform. And idea, as we have seen as one of the customer stories a couple of minutes ago, the sooner an application is in the cloud, the better. Yeah? That is why a lift and shift approach is suitable for a lot of customer situations. Lift and shift means, in general, applications are moved as they are without any changes in the code. Yeah? Lift and shift, I guess we all have heard that already, can be done in several ways: hot migration, cold migration, or in a massive way, the famous bulk migration. The advantages summarized is lift and shift requires really little upfront effort in the migration process, and it's really fast to migrate and deploy. Probably an example coming from the practical business, you would, or lift and shift would enable reducing license cost if you migrate, for example, an on-premise Oracle database to an AWS RDS service for Oracle in the AWS cloud. That would be an easy lift and shift approach. In some cases, you might consider completely redesigning your applications architecture. This approach, known as refactoring, usually includes rewriting the source code, APIs, interfaces, as well as coupling or even decoupling data, making the migration process much more time-consuming. However, it allows the workloads to take advantage of cloud-native frameworks and functionalities, and therefore may offer the best long-term results. And for this, an example as well, if you completely replace an on-premise Oracle database by AWS Aurora PostgreSQL, that would be an example for a refactoring or re-architecture approach. And however, and that is, you see it now on the next slide, the approach we are following on is not to leverage mode 1 or mode 2, but enabling both based on your specific business needs by leveraging VMware Cloud on AWS.
Thank you. Do I have to go all native if I go into the cloud with my business? If I move my IT there, do I have to have that as a goal?
No, you don't have to do it, but it makes a lot of sense. What Ralph explained was the different variants. Let me try to explain it that we have several steps for your cloud journey, and you can decide which step is the right for which of your applications. So if you look here, the cloud journey mostly begins in the on-premise data center. And the next step, if you could click to the next slide, is one of the first step could be the migration that Ralph has already mentioned. And with VMC on AWS, you have a really simple solution to move your workloads, so your VMware workloads seamlessly to a global AWS data center. And yeah, you can, if you need this, you have the possibility over 20 AWS locations all over the world where you can move your VMware workloads. The second step is then the adoption. This means if you have migrated your workloads to the AWS infrastructure, you can start to optimize your IT landscape. And here you can combine existing services with AWS native services And AWS had at the moment more than 200 servers available. So it's really a huge toolbox where you can look which is the best you can use. And one example, Ralph has already mentioned it before, is this database service. Also to use an AWS RDS database service instead of your local installed database. This is quite simple, and this is a quite simple way to move a service to a managed service, because you don't have to care about operating a database service anymore, also your own database service anymore. And as a last step, then is the re-architecture of your application landscape. And this is how you gain the highest benefit of the cloud. And yeah, you can transform your applications at your own pace by leveraging native AWS services. And this could be yeah, as an example, you can build a dev test environment that can integrate with a modern CI/CD automation tool, or native AWS, IaaS, or PaaS services once the application is deployed.
Okay. If you look at this, the time to migrate, the effort and skills needed for the different steps, I understand that there is some evolution in it, but from a business perspective, we now come back to the point costs. I think that all of this is also reoccurring in your numbers, in your outcome, in your costs. How can we compare the migration efforts for both approaches, or for the different approaches on the cost level?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I will try to answer that on the following page, reflecting two graphs. Yeah? So we see a curve here, and we have especially the migration cost bubble. Idea behind is, if we compare a migration by leveraging AWS, we need to consider that the application has to be changed, has to be rewritten. Yeah? We need to rewrite the application code to use the AWS platform. So that results into a specific migration project. Yeah, this migration project includes a specific period of time, and certainly it occurs a specific amount of costs. Both have to be considered in the related migration projects. Yeah, so typical activities in there, we have mentioned some of them here. Is that you have to realize that you have to prepare the related plannings and assessments. Yeah? You need a schedule for the migration. You need to evaluate and assess the application landscape, and you need to plan your sprints, for example, or you are preparing your migration in waves. You have to train probably your migration team, yeah, depending on the migration tool you want to leverage, and so on and so on. Just in general, if you want to migrate to somewhere, you have to consider a related migration project, which sometimes, following the experiences of a lot of our clients, is quite high. Now the next curve comes into the play, showing the opportunity of VMware Cloud on AWS. And that is quite interesting to see, because VMC on AWS enables the client, enables you to realize a two-step approach. The first step is the lift and shift we have already talked about. And this simply minimizes the need of refactoring the workloads, of rewrite your applications. Yeah, you have a reduction of risks, and you have the opportunity to leverage your own resources who feel familiar with the VMware technology for years, for example, because they will continue working with VMware software-defined data center technology, even on VMC on AWS. The result, long story told short, is the migration project will be shorter and less of costs in comparison to a migration towards a native hyperscaler platform. The conclusion in general, and you see that on the right side over time, it may be the case that the native hyperscaler platform will provide a higher commercial benefit over time. However, a lot of customers explain us the idea of having a two-step approach, leveraging the lift and shift approach first, and then go to a modernization project afterwards, is an approach which fits much better to a lot of customer requirements, to a lot of circumstances customers are facing in these days. And that's, from our perspective, a great opportunity to leverage VMware Cloud on AWS as an additional migration scenario to public cloud.
Okay. So, and what would be your recommendation to do? I understood that you think it's a very good way to approach this, but is that the best solution for every enterprise?
No, we suggest to evaluate and assess the specific needs in every single project. But our general recommendation is, if you have a look at VMware Cloud on AWS, to bring two ecosystems together. So cloud is not to decide between mode 1 or mode 2. It is not to decide between traditional workloads and native workloads. Our approach is, and if you have a look at these pictures, our approach is to enable both in an integrated hybrid approach. So aiming for the best achievable benefits for every single client. And that's important to understand if you want to leverage VMware Cloud on AWS, including application modernization. You need to have an expertise within the VMware ecosystem as well as in the AWS ecosystem. And our approach as a managed service provider is to bring especially these two ecosystems together into one portfolio, into one capability for the benefit of our end customers. And we realize that in a kind of, let's name it, consultative and advisory approach, because we have a lot of experiences in driving VMware business as well as public cloud business. And as a managed service provider, we are quite independently and we can consult our customers simply based on our experience and best practice approach as a service provider, and can then suggest a specific solution based on customers' individual needs. So even, I guess that's an important fact as well, even if we finally evaluate another solution with a better fit, we explain not only for what the solution is good for. As a managed service provider, we especially explain for what not. And I guess that could be an initial advice if you're thinking about who is VMC on AWS suitable for. The three things we at every time in mind is, first of all, IT professionals wanting to escape the hardware and software procurement, which we have explained a little bit earlier already. Then customers who want to avoid rewriting apps and want to perform really simple migrations, simply leveraging the related VMware technology. And I guess the third is VMware customers or professionals looking to keep VMware, because that is where most of the customers are coming from. Most of the customers interested in public cloud have a VMware ecosystem in place, a VMware SDDC in place, but at the same time might be interested to leverage services offered by AWS by need. And that is something T-Systems as a managed service provider is offering as a kind of, let's name it, package to our end customers. So bringing a lot of things together, which are usually divided into several pieces.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at the Carsten, if you look at the technical setup, once you decided for a certain approach, how does the concert, how do the pieces fit together?
Yeah, quite simple. So, and yeah, in this slide, I think most of you are now expected a technical drawing here, but we didn't do that to avoid getting lost in technical details. On the other hand, this slide, in my opinion, shows very well how simple VMC on AWS works, because most people already know the technical solution from their own local data center. So what VMC or what VMware does is they installed the well-known and stable VMware stack on AWS hardware, so that you, at the end of the day, you have the same management tools from VMware, the same identity management, the same network layer, and the same hypervisor as you have on your on-premise data center. And this is the advantage what brings you at the end the possibility that you have a real technical standardized hybrid platform, and what enables you to move your workload seamlessly to the cloud.
Thank you. You're pretty deep in the projects with your customers, as I know. And I know also that you prepared a slide with some insights on how deployments in practice do look like. Could you present a little bit from them?
Yeah, sure. If you switch to the next slide. Yeah, also what we have done during our go-to-market phase is that we not only trust the marketing slides from VMware, and what we have done is we have made a lot of tests and with the different developments and to approve, yeah, what says VMware, how it works, and how work is really in the real life. And what we find out is that VMC works quite well. And maybe let me pick out one example. We see on the upper right side this 13 minutes as average time to add a host to a VMware cluster. And so maybe the one or other VMware administrator would say now, yes, when the host is installed, it takes me less than 30 minutes to add a host to a cluster. But if you look, the reality is what takes 13 minutes on VMC takes more on your on-prem data center, because you have to keep in mind that you don't even have hardware in your data center to begin with. So you have to order hardware first, install it physically in your data center, wire it, power it on, install ESX, etc., etc. And if everything went well, you mailed it maybe in 14 days. And in my experience, this is a real good number. If you from ordering a server to add it to a cluster in 14 days will be a really good figure. And on the other hand, if you then look at the 30 minutes instead of the 13 days, this is a real word, isn't it?
Yeah, Ralph, what does a number like this mean for business?
It's from business perspective, it's not only interesting that you can scale up resources by need. Just thinking about the first customer situation we have discussed earlier, it's at the same time important that you can scale down. It's definitely useful that you have the ability that the infrastructure follows your business, but at the same time, just think about a seasonal peak. You don't need the resources anymore. You can scale down and ensure cost efficiency. Yeah, see on the right side, there's 3 minutes to remove the cluster. After you have run down the systems, no costs occur anymore. That is certainly, from business perspective, a really important topic. A second topic I want to mention is the disaster recovery capability, because the disaster recovery as a service capability, especially from a cost point of view, is quite interesting in that solution, because what we see in most of our customer situations, disaster recovery is more or less a business requirement and less coming from a technical perspective. And that would be the second huge advantage in around cost efficiency here as well.
Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of drivers and advantages from the solution, and we heard a little bit about the setup too. Before we listen to that, I wanted to ask you what your main drivers are to move into the cloud, and perhaps we can ask you this question now. Afterwards, we have the second question. What's your biggest challenge? So we would like to get a little bit insight into your situation. What drives you into the cloud, or what keeps you from getting there? We give you some seconds. I think 60 seconds max per question, and starting now. You can choose between several possibilities. Your main driver might be operational effectiveness, cost savings, business agility, innovation, or simply your board that is asking you to move to the cloud. That one is not really a serious option, but sometimes it happens. As I was told from Ralf and Carsten, sometimes the question is answered by the technician in this way. They wanted me to do this. But yeah, just take the time and take your pick. I don't think it takes too long. What do you think will be the outcome, Ralf?
I expected something between operational effectiveness and business agility.
Okay. And what is your view on that, Carsten?
Yeah, also I agree with Ralf in the business agility and see also the innovation as one of the drivers.
Okay, perhaps it would be interesting next time to have the same question before and after you presented a lot of the solution, because right now you're both wrong a little bit. I will share the results. And as we can see, none of you said cost savings, but yeah, that is surely next to innovation here the strongest answer in the round. So let's have a look at another aspect. So what's your biggest challenge? Because I also know a lot of enterprises perhaps tried already to move to the cloud, to go directly native, and then the cost bubble just kept them from getting there. We wanted to know what your biggest challenge regarding migration is. Same trick as the last time. Around about a minute, and your next chance to get it right, Ralf.
Okay. I know a lot of challenges around making applications ready for cloud. So I expect it's a kind of little experiences, know-how, and the lack of specialized stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
so for those who did not yet look at the screen, what possibilities there are, there's first possibility is we need more guidance. Second was we lack an overview, status quo opportunities. Then, like you said, we have little experience or know-how regarding migration, or we simply lack the specialist staff to do it. What is your experience, Carsten?
Yeah, also from my experience with our customer situations, I agree absolutely with Ralf. Also the last 2 points will be the biggest challenges, in my opinion.
Yeah, and our audience keeps surprising us. I close the poll, and you're both right and you're both wrong. 38% answered we have little experience or know-how regarding migration, but they do not say that there's simply a lack of specialist staff. Perhaps that depends also on the scope or the project itself. Who you will need or what you will need is, I think it's more visible if you have insight on how the migration will take place. Yeah. Thank you for your answers. That really helps to get a better view on our audience today. Surely the results are not representative for the whole market, so keep that in mind if you think about it. And now we are turning to the next point to have an overview over VMware Cloud and AWS provided by T-Systems.
But that fits to the poll as well, because what you will see now is that VMware Cloud on AWS provided by the systems is much more than VMware Cloud on AWS consumption only. That is certainly more or less the basis. Yeah. So the consumption of the VMC SDDC includes, as I guess it's normal, usual, and well known, the compute, storage, and networking piece, complemented by the related licenses, all provided in a related package. We then, as a managed service provider, are able to add the related native AWS services. You can leverage native AWS service, but you are not enforced to do that. Yeah, you just need an AWS account, certainly, but if you are in the first step, for example, not interested in leveraging an AWS service, you don't need to do that. However, if you want that, you get both from the systems as a managed service provider for both. The third piece then is the well-known managed services that especially includes some service desk services 24/7. Certainly, you are or we can provide additional connectivity services around fixed line connections, direct connect, and several additional services around backup, for example, storage, for example, or even specific security offerings. And the fourth piece of the puzzle is then predefined consulting packages. That is a really interesting approach because our customers are starting their journey in the on-prem environment. And if you start at your on-prem environment and want to be escorted to public cloud, it's recommended to have a provider on your side who is able to realize some evaluation, assessments, and recommendations how to leverage public cloud for your individual benefit. And that is why we name it a 360-degree approach from Navigate, so giving you some kind of orientation, implement, including the migration, and optimize additional services after the completion of migration. And how that looks in detail, I hand over to Carsten, who will introduce you to the related offering provided by the systems.
Yeah, thanks. What we try to create is an offering that gives our clients the greatest possible flexibility to choose only things they needed, or rather helps them on their cloud journey. So as a backbone of all is our VMC Foundation offering, where we have combined all necessary modules for a stable basement. And that helps you to speed up our cloud journey. Addition to that, next slide, please. Yeah, addition to that, we have the VMware add-ons if we need it. These add-ons are provided by VMware and can be quickly turned on or implemented for various use cases, like Ralph has mentioned it's already, like a disaster recovery solution. And last but not least, we have next slide. We have created our own optional services, we called it. So on the one hand, we can offer these because we are also a managed AWS service provider, and there we can make you offerings such as an AWS Direct Connect or a managed AWS account, and so on. On the other hand, we have also developed services or consulting packages and on ourselves, as we have found in various client situations that these are missing for the clients, such in backup as a service or in container services and so on. And with this, we are thinking that we have a good offering so that we are prepared for each client situation, and that the client could adjust and pick only this services he really needs for his cloud journey.
Okay. So we talked about why we move to the cloud, how we move to the cloud, what it looks like, and how that could be done individually. The question that could be in the head of some of our audience is, when should you take action? Surely, if you are in this webinar, you already decided a little bit further than only if you don't move to the cloud. So what are the triggers to take action, to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I would like trying to answer that, and we have summarized some of our experiences on the next slides. More or less very famous is if an end customer is interested to get rid of own data center capabilities, so the data center exit approach. The second customer situation, the healthcare customer we have mentioned previously, is, for example, a typical customer. He wants to get out of his own data centers worldwide, has at the same time a merger with another company, so it needs to consolidate their IT environments. And there's a famous, more or less a famous example, when should a client think about migrate or leverage public cloud. On the next slide, we have some trigger points around compliance and security. So if you want to leverage specific compliance requirements, it makes sense to think about well-certified public cloud platforms. So especially in specific verticals, the AWS platform, we are talking about VMC on AWS mainly today, provides related certifications here. Good trigger point to think about a related migration. The third slide is just showing a lot of different things around end of support of a hardware or software. You have an unstable IT, for example, or you have volatile business as described previously, or your outsourcing contract is close to an end, and you need to think about the next evolvement of your internal IT. So a lot of things, a lot of triggers, why and when to think about your start of migration.
Okay, thank you. So that would be a good starting point in some cases. But how does the offering look like? So if someone from the audience is getting in contact with you, what do you offer?
Yeah, so our offering for starting your journey, we have divided that into 3 pieces for the sake of proper understanding and transparency. It all begins with a kind of live demonstration and introduction to the Cloud Console, including the related features. It's simply interesting and great to see how efficient the integration and how efficient for example, migration of a VM between your on-prem environment and VMC on AWS works. So we are realizing a kind of live demo and test environments here. In the middle, you can see the related consulting packages, which have been mentioned by Carsten already. It starts, for example, with the SDDC scoping and sizing workshop. We have a look at your specific environment and provide an initial recommendation how to proceed. On the right side, you see proof of concept. To make all that happen in practice, we provide you an environment with or without guidance of the systems, simply following your wish or your business need, where you can evaluate at your pace, at your own, the environment in practice, next to the more or less theoretical consulting on the left side.
Okay, and why should they trust you?
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting question, and I have a look at the time, and I guess I will answer it in a couple of sentences just to allow you probably to ask some questions. But VMware Cloud on AWS, I guess, as everybody has heard already, is an offering which has been created by the close cooperation of VMware and AWS. That's certainly where the name is coming from. However, to complement these offering and to adopt the specific needs of our individual clients, we are strictly convinced it makes sense to put both ecosystems together by a managed service approach. And that is where T-Systems and Deutsche Telekom comes into play, and add the VMware and AWS piece by managed by T-Systems. And that is what we have tried to show within this slide, to make the VMC on AWS complete and complemented by related, we like to say, Magenta services to fulfill end customers' requirements, which are often above the standardized packages provided by VMware or AWS alone.
Okay. Yeah, on this slide we have some more credentials, and you can see a little bit more on what the experience is. I would just even if we didn't talk about this beforehand, shorten the webinar a little bit, because we are running out of time if we want to allow questions to be asked. Ralf and Carsten, thank you until here. You said earlier that people can get in contact with you directly, and to do so, they can use the contact data we just sent in. And now we would like you to ask us your questions if you have any. You can use your question and answer section, therefore, and we just have a little bit more time to think about what we will answer. So yeah, please do. And but perhaps we can use the time while you think about your questions to talk a little bit about this partnerships between T-Systems and VMware and T-Systems and AWS. Could you provide some insights from that, Ralf?
Yeah, I can do that. So VMware, for example, we are working together with VMware for more than 50 years now. I just remember that we have been one of the very first DSI vCloud service provider in Germany. vCloud, the vCloud Director offering coming from VMware. And certainly as a service provider, our own data centers have leveraged VMware technology as well. So for long years, we are an end customer as well as a service provider for VMware. And I guess that is really a very close and based on a long year experience relationship and cooperation. And now adding the AWS piece, we have a multi-cloud strategy at T-Systems. So especially AWS is one of the very first public cloud providers we have conducted in strategic cooperation. And that was one of the reasons why we have decided very early to put these two things together, the VMware piece and the AWS piece. And it is finally confirmed by VMware as well as AWS by the related certifications and accreditations T-Systems has owned for both. So we have been the AWS service provider of the year, for example. We have learned a lot. We have earned a lot of accreditations by VMware in the past, simply depending on all the things we have realized together for the benefit of our clients.
Oh, thank you. I can't yet see questions. Let me have a second look at it. but if you already have every question answered, please remember you can also ask directly using email or phone. And if you have other topics that you would like to get presented in this way, please let us know. Yeah, and otherwise I turn over to Carsten. If you have something to add to what Ralph just said, or yeah.
Yeah, thanks. But to be honestly, I don't have really something to add. Ralph does, as every time, a good job and explained it well.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see any questions. To my mind, then it's not necessary that we keep you from your daily business any longer. Yeah, we would like to get in contact afterwards, perhaps for a demo or something else. Just get in contact and we can answer every question there. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you very much and take care. Bye-bye.